between Infinity War and Avengers 4, we get two more MCU films. That's Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel. On the surface, it really doesn't seem like there's much that these two films would have in common. But after you do some searching, there's a fair amount that connects these two films. The first thing we need to take a look at is the Pym Particle. We watch the first Ant-Man, we see Hank tell Scott that he created a formula that allows him to change the distance between atoms. Now this makes sense on the surface, but when you stop and actually think about it, things don't add up. I mean, at the end of the film, Scott shrinks down and enters the quantum realm.
As you shrink, as you shrink, as you shrink, for all eternity. Everything that you know. And love. Gone forever.
So how can Ant-Man go subatomic when the Pym Particle is merely just changing the distance between atoms? I mean, the truth is he can't. And there's two options here. Either Marvel made a mistake, and for a long time I thought this was the case. Or Hank Pym lied. And it's looking like that is the correct answer. I mean, Hank went out of his way to make sure that nobody would find his formula. So he sent everybody in the wrong direction of how his formula actually worked. I mean, his biggest fear is that Hydra or some other group would get this technology and use it for the wrong purposes.
The Pym Particle is a miracle, please. Don't let your past determine the future.
As long as I am alive, nobody will ever get that formula.
Now I know what you're thinking. If that's the case, how did Darren Cross make the Yellow Jacket suit? Well, he says in the film that he found the research. He found the blueprints of the Ant-Man formula. So I think he was following along and he didn't actually understand what it was that he was making.
I immediately started researching a particle that could change the distance between atoms while increasing density and strength.
Why this revolutionary idea remained buried beneath the dust and cobwebs of Hank's research, I couldn't tell you.
So the question becomes, how does the Pym Particle work in the MCU? And to answer this, we need to look at the comics, but not the Ant-Man comics. No, we need to look to the Captain Marvel comics. Before I talk about this, I need to address something about the upcoming Captain Marvel film. We know for a fact that the primary antagonists are going to be the Skrulls, and this is important. In the comics, they have something called a nega band, which works by drawing energy from the negative zone. And these are replications of something called a quantum band, and you probably already guessed how that works, by drawing energy from the quantum realm. In the comics, Captain Marvel gets her powers by this device exploding, and her getting fused with a Kree known as Captain Marvel. And I think this is going to change in the films. I think what we're going to see is that one of these quantum bands is going to explode and fuse her with Captain Marvel. And what's going to happen is she's going to have her Kree powers, but she's also going to have quantum powers. This might seem far-fetched, but in the Ultimate series, we see that Ms. Marvel actually gets cosmic powers. I think that they're going to alter this to better fit the MCU. Now getting back to the Pym Particle, what I think is going to happen is that these Pym Particles are actually working like a quantum band, that they're drawing energy from the quantum realm itself. This fits better with the overall story and frankly just makes a lot more sense. Right now, the Pym Particles work by altering the distance between atoms, and as I've already said, that doesn't work since we've seen Scott Lang go into the quantum realm. There are several things that we know about the upcoming Captain Marvel film. As I said before, we know that the Skrulls are the primary antagonists. What we also know is that the quantum realm will have some role to play. Now this is fairly good for us because we've already seen the quantum realm. Now we don't know that much about it, but in the first Ant-Man, Hank Pym says,
If that regulator is compromised, you would go subatomic.
What does that mean?
It means that you would enter a quantum realm.
What does that mean?
It means that you would enter a reality where all concepts of time and space become irrelevant as you shrink for all eternity. Everything that you know and love. Gone forever.
Never said we knew a lot about the quantum realm, but we should be learning a fair amount more in the upcoming films. Both Ant-Man and the Wasp and Captain Marvel deal with it in some capacity. Now the comics, we know a lot. I mean, the quantum realm has its own civilization and everything. Now I don't believe the MCU is going to delve into this though. What I think we're going to see is that Ant-Man returns to the quantum realm to save Janice Van Dyne. Now for some reason you skipped over Ant-Man and you never went to see it, you heard it was bad. Let me tell you what happens. Hank Pym and Janice Van Dyne go to intercept a ICBM that's heading towards the United States. Because it is plated with titanium, one of them has to shrink down and go subatomic. It ends up being Janice, and she ends up destroying the missile, but gets lost in the quantum realm. Now, there's a fair amount of speculation here, but I think that when they save Janice, she'll tell them that she wasn't alone down there, and she'll tell them about Carol Danvers. Now, you might be thinking, why was Captain Marvel in the quantum realm for 30 years? Well, I think that this is going to be the main focal point for the Skrull invasion, so she decided to stay in the quantum realm to better protect Earth. I also think there's a chance that she was protecting something, but I'll go into that in a future video. Nick Fury hasn't been seen in the MCU in quite some time. I mean, outside of the most recent end credits scene, what was the last time we saw him? Age of Ultron? At the end of The Winter Soldier, we learned that he's going to go hunting for Hydra cells, but outside of that, what has he been up to? And now all of a sudden, he's going to be in Captain Marvel, which takes place in the 1990s. But this raises more questions, like, why Nick Fury? And it could have been anybody, but they chose him specifically. And what does this mean for the MCU as a whole? And yes, Nick Fury is the linchpin that brought the Avengers together.
Nick Fury, director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm here to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative.
But this takes place over a decade before the Avengers came together. There has to be a reason Nick Fury's in the film. What if he's an Ant-Man also? What if at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, we see Hank and Janice go to Nick Fury and tell him that Captain Marvel has a message for him, that she could sense something big was about to happen. I found it kind of weird during that end credits scene that he just so happened to have a way to get a hold of her, definitely considering at the end of The Winter Soldier, he burned all of his stuff. And this would make sense to why he would have that on him at that particular moment. And it would make a reason for him to be in the Captain Marvel film, and it would create this connection between Captain Marvel and the rest of the Avengers. Well, that's it for today. There will be a part 2 to this video coming out in a few days that will also serve as a part 2 to my Avengers 4 theory. Since making that video, I've actually seen Infinity War for a third time. There were several things that popped out to me that kind of pushed that theory just a little bit further. So if you enjoyed this one, feel free to check that one out. Also, feel free to hit that like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'll do my best to reply as soon as I can. I'm always down for a conversation. With that said, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.